Yes, SOSACRU, all is
You
well?
hear me?
Very well. Very well.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay. Greetings, greetings, and welcome. I want to greet you in the name of His Imperial Majesty, Emperor Haile Selassie I and Empress Menen Aswa, and to welcome you, our SOSACRU family, to yet another webinar. This one comes the 22nd of February, which is recognized around the world as Black History Month. In Jamaica, we have what is called Reggae Month as our additional spin on that. I think today, sharing with you a tribute to our recently departed brethren, Shango Baku, becomes a good embodiment of Rastafari and our consistent contribution in the Black history agenda, which is now a global pause for African people to recognize themselves as significant contributors in the building of civilization. My task is to welcome you to SOSACRU, which is the School of the Sacrament, Rastafari University. We are in our 5th year now of putting webinars together that we think are important sources to document our journey and our heroes and sheroes' contributions generally, but to provide a forum that I and I can come together and also pay tribute, recognize, memorialize those who have worked in our community, not just those who have passed, but those who continue to live and do that work. Our space is a collaboration of various spaces, including Frontline, which is an important Rastafari publishing house on this Black history agenda. It also includes collaboration with IDOR, which is a Washington-based international organization that sees itself as a door to Rastafari development globally and is very active. We've also worked with the Ethiopian World Federation variously, particularly the UK branch. I think some of those connections also come together today. I am in a very dynamic space, which is pretty much a part of the School of the Sacrament. It's called Herbs for the Pure, which is one of the Rastafari sacrament spaces developed under the new framework where Rastafari is allowed to have these kinds of outlets or multifunction space, for want of a better word, as a part of our total life, one of the institutions we can't under-recognize. I won't take too much time going forward. I want to introduce the chair of the School of the Sacrament, Professor Robbie Shilliam, my brethren, who is very much the man, given his international and UK links, to direct us through this evening's event. So it is my pleasure to turn over to Robbie, and I leave it in the hands going forward. Robbie.
Yes, I give thanks. Rashalani. Glory to Word, glory to Sound, glory to power of the Trinity. Yes, I one family, His Majesty, Empress Menen, and I, the children. It's very good to be here with ones and ones today to reflect on and strengthen the life of our dear Shango Baku. I know ones in the UK have already given him a sterling celebration, so I and SOSACRU thought that we should do the same and amplify that with a webinar on the life and lessons of Ras Shango Baku, and I think it's Ras Shango's Earth Strong in a couple of days, right? I got in my head it's the 24th of February. Does anyone know? I think it is something like that. But anyway, that's so the Earth Strong is close by, so that gives us an extra power. We've got 5 or 6 speakers today. All of them have known Ras Shango very well in different capacities in different spaces. And each one is gonna block a sound on Ras Shango's live for say 10 or 15 minutes each, and then we're gonna open it up to the floor. One of the sisters earlier was asking if it would be recorded, and it is going to be recorded because we need to document the lives of our elders and all the work that our elders have done and are doing. I'm going to give very brief introductions to the speakers. Brief because they don't need too much of an introduction, because ones and ones will no doubt know them. Ras Shawn Haile Mariam Sobers. Ras Shawn is known for his sterling work at Fairfield House, the Rastafari Embassy in the West, and the documentary Footsteps of the Emperor. So we have Ras Shawn. Ras Sekou Tafari. Ras Sekou, ones will know from Frontline and Rastafari Speaks, and Ras Sekou's historic work with Ras Shango in that respect. We have Ras Miguel Lawn, the very famous Rastafari attorney, writer, and publisher. We have hopefully Ras Kasate Bahane. He's going to come forward. Another very famous and influential attorney, especially with regards to the sacramental use of the herb. Then we have Ras Amani Naftali, who's a dramatist, writer, director. Ones in the UK will know him for his stalwart work with the Nyabingi House there. And then finally, but by no means least, Sister Stella Headley. Ones will know her from Rastafari Movement UK. And look, Sister Stella, the eye gave me this a while ago. I still got it. 7 ways to good mental well-being and Rastafari. And appropriately for the subject of our webinar today with Ras Shango, good thinking. Yes, I. So we'll start with Ras Shawn. Ras Shawn, 10 or 15 minutes, free up and come forward. Yes, I.
Give thanks, blessed love family, in the divine name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, Yesus Christos, blessed Ma'ab, world, Mefeskadu, Sadawam, Amen. So give thanks. I also want to acknowledge members of the family that I see in the list of contributors. I won't hail out names, as up to ones to come forward, but I give thanks for the presence of the family of Ras Shango Baku, and much respect to you and much love. So I'm going to be reading out my tribute this evening. I say this evening, I'm in the UK, as Ras Robbie said. And what I'm going to be reading, I wrote a tribute for Just Jar magazine and the Voice newspaper. I was asked to write that by Sister Sinai from Just Jar magazine. So I'm going to be reading that out. And then also I offered a tribute at the funeral itself. So I'll be reading both of those, just, flowing from one to the other. So hopefully, yeah, looking forward to the reasonings, and give thanks also to the School of Sacrament, Rastafari University, and all you're doing, really important. And yeah, it's an honor and a privilege to be here. So give thanks, blessings and love. So my name is Haile Mariam Shawn Sobers from Fairfield House, Bath, as Ras Robbie said, and I was a friend of Ras Shango and also did some work with him through Fairfield House and also my University of the West of England, and I'll speak more about that as I go through. Now, on the first day of the 2026, witnessed the peaceful passing of Ras Shango Baku into the realm of the ancestors. Pioneer Rastafari thinker, commentator, writer, activist, actor, and much, much more. Ras Shango personified the principle of self-determination and collective security. Editor of Caribbean journal Rastafari Speaks in the 1980s, and Thunder Voice of the Nyabingi National Council from 2010 to 2021, Ras Shango became a well-known Rastafari figure, an international journalist and spokesman. Born in Trinidad and Tobago on the 24th of February, 1944, so that's in 2 days' time, hail up his Earth Strong, arriving in Britain by ship in 1962. Speaking to the UK Parliament for the for the Your Story, Our History campaign project, Ras Shango described his experience of arriving in the UK. He said, "For the first time in my life, I was adrift on a sea of circumstance, having to take care of my own self, and that was a rough time for me. I had to face certain realities." And that new reality that Ras Shango had to face was racism. Ras Shango dedicated his life to campaigning for the truth, rights, and justice of oppressed people and Rastafari concerns. In more recent times, Ras Shango became a founding member of Rastafari Regal Initiative alongside Ras Kostafari, Sister Stella Headley, who's here this evening, and of course, Professor Robbie Shilliam. And he also worked with other ones such as Ras Rai, Jablu, and Adishwat Afsawasan, working collectively to develop the research, exhibitions, and teaching resources exploring the cultural history, community knowledge of global Rastafari heritage. Their Rastafari and the Movement exhibition was first presented in 2014 in Ethiopia at the National Museum in Addis Ababa before being shown in the UK here in Bath at Fairfield House, which is the former home of His Imperial Majesty and Empress Menin, where it formed the centerpiece of commemorations marking the coronation of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I. In 2021, I asked Ras Shango to give a keynote lecture for the Freedom in the City Festival of Learning for Fairfield House and the University of the West of England. In the final words of his now landmark lecture, which was titled The History and Theology of Rastafari Liberty, which is available on YouTube, he said words important for all of us to keep in mind and as we now reflect on his legacy. And he said, just to start quote, "Perhaps a new world beyond the wars of the 20th century could happen, something beyond religion that becomes a way of life, that perhaps combines the best in all religions and makes the world a safer place to live. The coming together of activists in different parts of the world, even using the new technology to benefit the world community of Rastafari, which represents perhaps the poor people of the earth, and they fight against oppression by the few to bring forward that impact which we now have had into the 21st century and into the future." End quote. I last saw Ras Shango about 3 weeks before he passed into the realm of the ancestors. And while his body was weak, it was clear that his mind was still strong, and the light and fire was still burning bright within him as it ever will be. Now, we all know His Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I was defender of the Ethiopian Orthodox faith, and the heights which one see in him are manifested as flag bearers of Rastafari liberty. In the public eye in mass media, one of the first real defenders of the Rastafari faith that I remember seeing in the UK was Ras Shango Baku on Channel 4's Devil's Advocate, which was presented by Darkus Howe. And I think many ones in here, particularly in the UK, remember that episode really strongly. As expected, Darkus was a ferocious opponent, acting in the role of a prosecutor and wouldn't let anything get past him lightly. But Ras Shango, acting on behalf of the defense of Rastafari liberty, was there to defend his position, whether Darkus liked it or not. And it is clear that Darkus didn't like what he heard and became incensed with vitriol. Ras Shango's humility, grace, wisdom, and poise for me won through. And it showed how, when faced with fire, it's often necessary to douse it with water rather than add more fire. He put his head above the parapet, which is what defenders of the faith do. They can often become martyrs in the process, and it's easy for others on the sidelines to heckle when their heads are safely out of shot. This bravery to use his voice, even if it shook at times, is a quality that drove Ras Shango's life and actions. As an activist, writer, publisher, actor, organizer, commentator, lecturer, and much, much more, he really was a gift to this world. Watching Channel 4, I knew I wanted to meet this humble Ras. And eventually, when I did, some years later, his careful wisdom, focus, sharp intelligence, and sharp sense of humor won me over all over again. Ras Shango had such a beautiful soul, and he was the walking embodiment of a true defender of the faith. When I went to visit him just a couple of weeks before he eventually sadly passed, even though he was not able to say much with words, he still spoke volumes. His mind and intellect were as sharp as ever, and even with the little words that he could speak, he still managed to crack a joke and make us both laugh. In the precious name of His Imperial Majesty Emperor Haile Selassie I, from all of us at Fairfield House, we send our love and prayers to Ras Shango's partner Annie, his children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and extended family and friends. We pray to the Almighty to guide and protect Ras Shango's family, and may his soul be guided into your arms with the ancestors. Give thanks, blessings, and love. And yet again, thank you for organizing this evening, and I look forward to the reasonings and the rest of the contributions. Give thanks, blessings, and love.
Give thanks, Rashom. Give thanks. That's a very, very good start. Okay. So we're moving forward now to Rasoku. Rasoku, the eyes there. Rasoku. Rasoku was there a minute ago, no?
He's there. Perhaps you go to Ras Miguel and I'll find out where.
Yeah, okay. Yes, okay. All right. So Ras Miguel, would the eye like to come forward now? Give thanks, my lord. And the eye might need to unmute. Yeah, the eye might need the youth. Yeah.
Try now.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, sir, we can hear.
Greetings, greetings, greetings. I knew Raseko and Raseko, Rashango, in different light and different capacities, but all within Rastafari. But I should say, first of all, I'm really grateful to the School of Sacrament and Study.
All right. We had the usual connection issue. It always happens. It's good. It's good. The other will come back in a minute.
Perhaps he can't do it in camera as well. It might be.
Yeah. Well, Sister Colleen, the good thing about all this is that we can edit, right? So yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so Ras Miguel just went off. So maybe what we do is we
Raseku is coming back on as well. So let me Ras Miguel.
All right, man. So Ras Miguel is not here at the moment. Raseku, sister, did you say Raseku was here?
I just saw his number. Raseku, if you open your mic, please. I sent you a request to unmute.
Oh, here I can see Ras Miguel's come back now.
Okay.
So
Ras Miguel.
Yeah. Let's see if he can come forward. If he can't, then for the moment, then I'll ask Rasamani to come forward in a second. Let's just give him a moment.
Ras Miguel, if you're hearing us, could you speak?
All right. Well, whilst Ras Miguel and Ras Sekou sort out the connection, let's go forward to Ras Amani. Yes, I. Give thanks, Ras Amani.
Am I being heard now?
Oh! Yes,
Yes.
Ras Miguel, please come forward. Come forward. Give thanks.
All right. Yes, like I said, so we have met up in Grenada, we have met up in St. Lucia, and of course he came to Jamaica and joined us. And also we met up in Trinidad. In starting the newspaper Rastafari Speaks, I wish to say that this newspaper started on Raseko's bed. We would all gather at Raseko's house, and his bed was where about 6 of us sleep in the night, and during the day, the bed was our table. Brother Shango now, in those days, we would cut and paste literally. And Brother Shango was the main person with that. Apart from writing some of the articles, he knew how to cut and paste and then carry it to the printers. We spent quite a few time. We did everything. We cut and paste a newspaper, we bring it to the publishers, and when it was printed, we went on the road to sell it on the different corners, different streets, and so on in Trinidad. So, in terms of him being a thinker, this is how I would describe him, because his brain and mind is always working. He always come up with something or other. Because naturally, when we started out in Trinidad, to say that we didn't have money is an understatement. We just could hardly make ends meet. But Brother Shango always come up with something to make sure that at least we'd gather one meal for the day. And when we went over to Grenada, we were invited to a conference by Maurice Bishop in Grenada. We went to the conference, and but after the conference, we wanted a special conference with Maurice Bishop. We went to his office to see him, and we were being given an appointment weeks when we would not be in the country. So we decided to go by his house. When we went by his house, his soldiers prevented us from getting near. So we had to wait out by the gate. And when Maurice was passing now with his entourage and his guards and so on, he saw us. That was myself, Brother Seiko, Raskabinda, and of course Shango Baku. When he saw us now, he turned back, went up to the house, invited us up to the house, and we had a meeting with him. Rashango was quite blunt with him, very blunt. He made Maurice Bishop understand that here we are in your country, we want to see you, and we are getting all the negative vibes and so on. But Maurice appreciated his words. He wasn't vexed, he did not flounder. I'll go quickly. In Jamaica, when he came to Jamaica, he wanted to assist us to form a Rastafari unification committee in Jamaica. So we traveled together to all the Rastafari houses. We went to Gadman of the 12 tribe of Israel house. He appreciated us and accommodated us. We went up to Bower Hill, where we met Prince Emmanuel. Prince Emmanuel had us to stay up there for 3 days. We had really gone intended for a half day the most, but he invited us to stay for 3 days so that we could see the settings, and then he reasoned with us concerning the unification. We went by the Orthodox Church, and we also went by the Nyabingi House. All of this was with Shango Baku, who was totally committed to the unification of Rastafari. In St. Lucia, we traveled, we saw the Prime Minister, and we met members of the Parliament there and so on, towards the unification of Rastafari in the Caribbean. Like I said, Brother Shango, in all these islands, because we travel around on our own budget, and in all of these areas, he was a pivotal force in endeavoring to bring about the unity and the glory of Rastafari. One great meeting we had in Grenada was with Ras Nang Nang. Ras Nang Nang was initially a soldier who helped to overthrow Gary, the former prime minister in Grenada, and was a soldier with Bishop. But when Bishop started veering towards the communist path and was giving communism a greater sway, more than the Rastafarians who had put him in power, Shango made it quite clear to Bishop that he did not agree with such a path and so on. Brothers and sisters, I really give thanks for this brethren. There's many that can be said about him, but I'm truly grateful that I was able to travel to so many islands with him, and I was able to, like I said, we were on the same bed by night, and we were working on the bed by day. I give thanks for this gathering. Give thanks.
Aye. Give thanks, Elder. Give thanks for that recollection. Really, really valuable, really valuable. And we just keep hearing more and getting more information now about the relationship between Rastafari and Grenada Revolution. So we give thanks for that extra information. SOSACRU, is the eye able to reason now? Sister Colin. Yes, I. SOSACRU.
Yeah, I'm here.
I've
been
here.
here.
Always here.
I'm being here. Okay.
Give thanks, SOSACRU. Go forward.
Yes, I. You want me to proceed?
Yes, I proceed. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we give thanks to the Almighty Mother and Father. We give thanks for Mother Earth and Father Time. We give thanks to Haile Selassie the First and Empress Menen Asfor, and I the throne of Rastafari. Yes, we give thanks to the great matriarchs and patriarchs. Yes, we give thanks to the Bongo Watos, the Bongo Time, Bongo Shevans, Mama Baby I, Bongo Rocky Man, Pa Shanti.
Yeah.
Give thanks. We give thanks to Shepherd Atili Rogers, Alexander Bedward, Robert Hines. We give thanks to Ras Aikel Tafari. We give thanks to all our great Rastafari matriarchs and patriarchs on whose backs we now walk. Yes, as we remember our great brethren, our great ancestor now, remembering Shango Baku. Shango Baku was my brethren and remain my brethren. He was a brethren of mine for the last 50 years or more. We first met in the area of literary writing. I was the vice president of the Writers Union of Trinidad and Tobago, and Shango had returned to Trinidad, I think was for his aunt's funeral. And we started he came as a guest of the Writers Union, and from there we started working together. He was a dramatist, an actor. He was also one of the great intellectuals of our time in terms of Rastafari. So when I came up with the concept and the idea for Rastafari Speaks, I brought it to him, and from that we linked up with General Muntu Lalibala, who had the concept and the idea of the Rastafari Brethren Organization, which we call RTBO. I was functional as was renting a place from General Muntu Brothers, which I turned into an ITIL, a health food store, which we then called Forward Home, with the idea of repatriation. So we gathered there because we used there also at the office. But as Brother Miguel rightfully said, we had brought Miguel in to contest a case with a cannabis case, a ganja case for General Muntu. And I would spend a lot of time with Miguel because Miguel stayed at my home in Belmont. And we got him to do the bar under the then Attorney General. I think he was Richardson at the time. He is the one who brought Miguel into the bar in Trinidad to fight the case. But at the same time, we had met among a few of us, including Kabinda, Brother Miguel, Shango, and Prince Nana. And I was working at the time with the Ministry of Education in Grenada, and therefore was acting as a liaison in the ministry. And so at the time we met and we were discussing with the whole idea of cultural unity, Rastafari unity. Rastafari was now under somewhat attack under the Grenada regime, basically from the extreme left, which was Bernard Cord and his comrades. However, we met and we showed the idea, including on that team was also a brother called Kimani Langa, who was only one of the real persons who already knew about graphics, because I was working with Kimani Langa as well in relation to putting out a magazine called Kambule. And so, but Shango Baku, when I came with the idea of Rastafari Speaks, he was very much willing. And at the end of the day, he was the one who ended up being the editor of the papers. I ended up being the publisher of the papers. And we all were curious because they all were saying, how are we going to publish this paper without money? So I had to lay out a plan, which was basically we were going to get the papers running by using a lot of the cultural people at the time were doing a lot of ITIL shops. Rastafari Brethren were doing a lot of ITIL shops around Trinidad. And that is somehow we would go to some of these brethren and ask them to contribute, and we will give them an ad in the newspaper. We also had brethren who were running smoke gates at the time. Though illegal, we were running these gates, and there we asked them, people like Banlan, people like Umawale, all those people we're talking about now are now past, now ancestors. And they all contributed. Whether some gave $1,000 here, some $500 here, and so on, and in order to get the papers basically out. We first started printing the papers in at the Express newspaper in Port of Spain in Trinidad. By the time about the second or third edition, we had to change and move to Barbados, to the Nation newspaper, where we printed the papers as well. One of the incidents I remember, Shango and I was on the way to Barbados to get the papers printed. And when we were going through the airport at Baku, I realized that this guy who was security, he was given a lot of problems. And was a tall brethren. And he was letting all these white people who go through, who were going on the plane without any problems. And I, always end up being a vocal person when it comes to down pressure. So I started to tell the brethren, I said, why are you letting all these people go through and they're giving the Rastaman and problems? So anyway, he started to dig up my bags and stuff like that. And I knew I had nothing to worry about. But I didn't realize that Shango had something. Shango had some herbs. And so while he is terrorizing me and digging up my bags, Shango is trying to get on and pass him and went through somebody. But when they get to dig up in Shango bag, Shango took and ran up the escalator, run up the steps, run onto the plane with his herbs, and hide the herbs up over the seat. So then, when I come on the plane now, I realize that they're now frantic. They come on the plane, security come on the plane looking for Shango. They found Shango, but they didn't find anything. But when you look up in the air and under where we put your bags and so on, they found the little herbs. So they took Shango off the plane. So I had to go on to Barbados by myself. Thinking at all, well, not knowing if Shango is going to come, waiting in the airport, not realizing that no Shango. So next day I started to make arrangements to go with Nation newspaper and so on. Next thing you know, Shango appeared in Barbados. So then they gave me the outline of what took place. And they charged him for some herb, and we therefore had a case. So we got the papers printed. We stayed around Broad Street, and after the papers was printed, and we sold the papers right there on Broad Street. We stand up there. We had another incident again. There was a restaurant right upstairs, the Shepherd's Cave, and I bought some rice and peas there. But there was a stone in the rice and peas. And I asked the young lady to refund the money, and she didn't want to refund the money. And Shango was telling me, let's leave it alone, let's leave it alone. So I started to make a set of noise in the place, and the next thing you know, they brought the police, they brought the pigs, they brought the Babylon. And they telling me, well, you need to. And I said, the young lady, you saw the stone in the place. Why now you know tell saying that there was no stone in the rice and peas? So anyway, eventually they give me back the money, and we left. But this is one of the things that we encountered. We also did check out Eddie Grant, who Shango knew previously from in the UK. He had now moved to Barbados and so on. So he had bought a big spread. So we visited him. We spoke and spent time with him. So these are some of the things and the journey that we had. The journey Grenada, journey Trinidad. We met up again in the UK when I went to the UK again now to do accounting and economics and law and so on. And here was going on the Caribbean focus at the time. And they also had this religious parliament. I didn't take part in it much because I had studies. Basically, we were trying to focus on studies. But I would meet up with Shango and Kasati and them from time to time at what was called the Santi, was called the factory, which then changed its name later on to become the Santi Center. So these are some of the encounters we had. Shango and I stayed in contact when we brought back the papers again out from Chicago, sometime around about 20, 22 years ago. So that about around 19, about 2002, I think it was. We brought back another edition, some other editions of the newspapers. And every time I call to talk to Shango, and his woman would say, his wife would say, she would say, man, you and Shango you all just like to be beaten up. You know, you all just like to be beaten up by trying this, putting all these papers, but you all just love it. And she just knew that Shango and I had that love, the whole idea of publishing, putting out the newspaper, because the newspaper for us was like a sword. It was like a sword. I wrote articles for the newspaper, but Shango himself was basically the editor. As you know, Shango was a second runner-up, or first runner-up in 1962 for Higher Cambridge. And he therefore left Trinidad to go to Dublin to study language. So he was, when it comes to language, he was very brilliant, knew French, also knew some Spanish and so on. So he was very astute and so on. And when we going back, revisiting the case that we had when he was going to Barbados, we got a brother called I think it was Hislop and Alam. Both of them went was at Dublin around the time with Shango in the 1960s. So they Alam represented Shango the case. I came as a witness, and we won that case right out. So I just want to say that in the spirit of Rastafari, if one was to ask me how I would like to see our young people, our young children, our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, I would like them to take on the persona, the intellect, the astuteness, the brilliant mind of Ras Shango. Ras Shango, I work with him on an actual stage where Roald Panton, who is to write for the news, Express newspaper, did a play called Hathaway. It was based on what do you call it? Our warrior chief, and Shango played that role. I was on that played a part because I was handling what they call the grip, handling all the garments and all the different things for that play. But Shango was a brilliant actor, a brilliant dramatist, a person with a high IQ. That also he was very much a person who could give a laugh. He wasn't a stiff person. He wasn't stiff. He wasn't stiff. He was just a human being. And I would like if our trend, our young trend who is coming, could take on that personal flavor of Shango Baku. Yes. Because if our trend could take on that, we know what our Rastafari would be in good hands. You know, if someone were to ask me how I would like our trend to be, I'd say it in the spirit of Shango Baku. Give thanks.
Yes, sir. Rastafari. Give thanks, SOSACRU. I love that word, astuteness, and the newspaper, that the island treated the newspaper like a sword. Yes, sir. And give thanks for the stories about the self-sufficiency and the Garveyite principles through which one's produced that newspaper. Yes, sir. All right, moving on. Ras Amani. We give thanks.
Blessings, beloved. Well, what a glorious day to be gathered amongst the eye. I see pure fire angels around me and blessed ones who have done great works within Rastafari. And that brings a humility to one's heart. So I will kind of start off and start from the end and like the Sankova bird, look back. So I visited Shango while he was sick, while he was staying in his last place of residence, and my job was to go there and to reach out and touch, if you know that song. And I know that many of his brethren could not reach out and touch, so I felt that privilege and honor to be there. And then I have to run back and give a report to Russ Babu in the morning of what's going on and how's Shango and how's he doing and what's he eating, and we would come up with these plans and strategies. Like I went down to Shepherd's Bush Market, and Babu said to me one day, you know, Shango likes doubles, you know. And I said, what? He said, yeah, that's his favorite food, roti. You know what I mean? So I said, all right then. So I went down there early and I bought up roti and I bought up doubles and I got there for lunch and I walked into Shango's room and Shango's got the curtains closed and is there curled up in the corner. So I just opened the curtains and I said, Shango Baku. And he said, yes, my lord, as he, as he used to answer. And I said, listen, I got something for you. And he kind of picked up and turned around. And I said, I got some roti, brethren. And he went, ooh. And I said, and I got some doubles, brethren. And he went, ooh. And then I said to him, listen, bring out the plate. And they brought out the plate and chopped that in half. And me and him ate. And you know that doubles is a thing that even you need physical dexterity to eat a doubles. It's flowing out all sides. So Shango couldn't handle it. So there's me putting doubles in his mouth and feeding him. And I tell you, brethren, we hear about once a man and twice a child, but Shango was a lion true and true. And it was a privilege and an honor to see him. So I'm a ritualist. I don't call myself an actor because I used to say that the actor is a liar, right? So we deal with ritual arts and the theater and artists of truth. So I would like to start off by reading something. It's a book that Ras Flacco put together with songs written by the poets of the court of His Imperial Majesty Haile Selassie I. And I'd just like to read this one in honor of my brethren and in honor of the eyes and the eyes and the eyes. My light, my flower, now I have seen my ransom has been born. When the lion, your son, comes out of the woods, glory shall be unto you. Feared shall be your gates. Presenter, now I have seen my ransom has been born. My light, my flower, having seen you, who else should my eye behold? My covenant is affirmed, for I have seen the light. If I die, I am not hurt. I won't beg for my life. Now I have seen my ransom has been born. My light, my flower, having seen you, who else should my eye behold? So let me give honor to the theater person and the dramatist and the ritualist, right? That was Shango Baku. otherwise known as Smokey, right? And Shango was the right name for him because he's a
Yeah.
he's a fireman, and I
No,
come
it's
as he's a fireman, and I come as a fireman. He is a creative artist, and I come as a creative artist. His name was Shango, and Shango is my name, and our color is red, and we fly that flag highly. So when I met this virgin, we had many things in common because as we sat around in the early days in the formation of the Nyabingi National Council, we were the two ones who knew about ritual arts and theatricality and drumming and certain things within the arts of Africa and the tradition. So we shared that kinship. We didn't have to say anything. We understood each other. But Shango sent a terror and through the Nyabingi because he was fast and he was swift and he made people have to step up a whole different level. So if we had a meeting, by the time you get back to your yard, right, Shango's already knocked out the minutes. And you're thinking, boy, I better get to work because otherwise he just made everybody, he put everybody to shame because he said, within this liberty, right, Rastafari has to be at the forefront and your light has to shine and you have to give your people the best that you can do. And that was what I saw of this man. He gave of himself the best that he could do. We spent many times together in you talked of the Santua, formerly known as the factory, where we had a project called the Nyabingi project. Now that was Shango Baku, Kimani Langa, Kasati, Stafford Ashani, and other ones on ones. So I was like the youngest one amongst the group. So they just loaded me up with the holy for work and said, Amani, right, go and research this and research that. Research Nyabingi. So I said, all right then. But I realized that my portfolio was the biggest. So I went off to research Nyabingi and I ended up in the Commonwealth Library. And I'm looking through all these documents. And the man said to me, listen, this library is going to close, right, in 2 days. And all the collections will be sold off. So copy what you need to copy. So I'm looking through and I'm seeing Holy PB and I'm seeing Royal Parchment Scroll of Black Supremacy. And then I'm seeing Nyabingi, okay, flicking through Nyabingi. And I'm waiting to see Nyabingi, Jamaica. And I'm seeing Nyabingi, Rwanda, Uganda. And I'm saying, hang about, hold on, rewind. So I just copied everything. I copied everything and me and a brethren and Shango with his brilliance, because some of the photocopies were in French. So Shango would go in there and translate everything. And we presented that. That was the first time, well, not the first time, because I had a little strip of paper from Queen Amiga Daughters in the Nyabingi House of Jamaica that spoke of a female queen, right? Nyabingi. But that was all I had. And they spoke of Moscow Conference. But out of that, brethren, I found volumes of work written by first anthropologists and even some of the first secret agents that were sent into Africa, right? In the early 19th century, right? At the later part, right? 1911, where the Nyabingi fought a war and Nyabingi was a queen and Nyabingi was a woman and the essence of it. And so all of that information we found, and we also managed to get hold of the Kebrenigust hard copy. And Shango was an engine driving those kind of works within the Ayabingi. Eshe? I would like to give another honor because as I say, I represent the griot, And that's what Shango was, a griot and a scribe and an orator. So let us read the words of the orator. In the beginning, all is magic, the lightning of opposing forces in the void, the charge in first meeting, the electricity of life. And to be always in the beginning is to live near the dawn of creation where all is wonder. There is magic in the shape and the meaning of one, magic before the dullness of repetition. There is magic in the crooked seven. I will meet you on this dread level, the bitter patch of soul that has unfucked itself of all beliefs, rejected all knowledge that is unvariable, desecrated all sanctums in order to be holy. Such is the measure of my arrogance. I have cared past caring and come to certain knowledge, and in all this Babylon, I have met with two men who were real, and the rest were made up men of varying force and strength, sharing some commitment in their weakness that they might not be dreadfully, absurdly alone. I did that with a great African director called Ulisu Amadumadi, and he was definitely mad, too mad within the names, but he was a great African director. And we did this, and this is from the Dread level, written by Shango Baku. To me, when I read it, I just, who write this? Who put these words together? This is a magician who wrote this. I still think this is one of the greatest things that I have read, written by a Rastafari theatrical artist, right? And although many people don't know this book, I hope one day still to see this production done, right, and toured, because people should know the magnificence of the man, right? We worked together in Thunder magazine, and Thunder magazine now was a dream vision of I, and we had the brilliance of Rastafari Speaks and all of the learning that Shango brought with that. That was on one side. We also had the brilliance of RUZ and Ras Ayavan, Ras Devon, who knew about design and layout, right? So these magicians came together, and between I and Russ Jr. and other ones, right, we had a media committee, and we wanted to create something that was articulate, but we wanted to create something that was, in essence, stylish, because we were doing it for I and our people, and we wanted them to be proud of the. So we had the standard of Rastafari Speaks, and then we had Jahug as another brilliant magazine that was printed by Rastafari Sister Scala. So we said, well, we have to come higher than that, use all of the technology of Rastafari, journalism and artistry, and put together something that is refined. So that was the energy that formulated Thunder magazine. We have Thunder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So allow me this opportunity. I, blessed brethren, Miguel Lorne, and I, blessed brethren, Sekou Tafari, and I, blessed brethren, Bobby Shilling, and I'm all of the I will call the I because we have to. I can hear Shango in my head right now saying, so what happened to Thunder 7? You know, I work on Thunder 7, Amani, right? Because I'm going to talk to Russ Flacco, and I have to say, Thunder 7 has to be born, because that was the vision of Shango Baku. That was the vision of Ras Devon. That is the vision of I. So I will be reasoning with the ones that we can fulfill that vision and carry on that divine legacy and example that was put forward by Shango Baku. Plus, on a more fun side, he was a living trickster, right? And he used to make me laugh. I used to look at this little skinny man and say, where you get that big voice? Where you get that big voice from in this small little marga body? But that was the great Shango Baku. Because though them saying in Jamaica, him little, but him talawa. And that was him. And to me, both as an artist, as a Rasta, as a brethren, as a human being, right? It was an honor to work with the one. It was an honor to know him, right? And all we can do, brethren, is to walk timidly in his footsteps, because Shango used to stand outside Brixton, humbly, selling thunder, but vociferously selling thunder. And he put us all to shame again, because Thunder magazine would sell out, and Shango make sure that his portion is sold before everyone else's. That was the level of the man's labor, right? He walked his talk, literally. So I give honor and I give praise and give thanks for this privilege and this time spent in just sharing a little anecdote of the great Shango Baku. Ili Selassie the first. Shango Baku.
Give thanks. Give thanks, Rasamani. And yes, I we will reason on Thunder 7 for sure. Yes, I. And I'm just bringing together all the threads and all the kindlings that ones and ones have put on this fire, and the artist as truth is the one that I'm bringing forward from the eye. Give thanks. Aye, aye. And yes, Sister Stella, is the eye able to come on?
Yes.
Give thanks, sister. Give thanks.
Well, I'm not sure how I'm going to follow all of this. However, I do want to give thanks to the Majesties and the School of Sacrament. And I guess as we honor the life and spirit of the enduring fire, Ras Shango Baku, from what I've heard so far, his name carries rhythm and resistance and revelation. And I also want to honor him as I endearingly called him Big Brother. And also honored to say these few words and giving thanks for knowing Rashango Baku's amazing, massive family. So I first met Rashango Baku at the home of Rasta Niger, and we had responded to the call to serve on the curating team for the UK component of an exhibition called the Rastafari, the Majesty of the Movement, and then it became Rastafari in Motion, which was exhibited at the National Museum of Ethiopia, as well as touring the UK and Jamaica, amongst many other spaces. And that was with a team, including Ras Robbie, Ras Koz, Adishuwak, Ras Rai. And so there was a team of us. But with Ras Shango, once he spoke, we listened, and his presence always filled the room, but without demanding it or commanding unnecessary attention. And so there were always some people in life that enter loudly and others with gravity. And I would say that with Rashango, he carried gravity. He listened before he spoke, and he observed before he acted. And when he reasoned, it was for purpose. I learned a lot from Rashango in the time that I knew him. And I felt like over the next 14 to 15 years, like our collaborations were like kinship. And also his partner, his life partner, Annie, I also called her Big Sis. So it was jokingly Big Bruv and Big Sis. And I didn't use those words lightly, because like within Rastafari, family is a vibration, and it's a shared struggle, and it's a shared liberty. And so he was steady and protective and grounded. And and he was gracious, quietly powerful, and she was balanced as his anchor. And so together they were sort of a real sort of model partnership in the sacred works that were happening. And when we worked on the Majesty and the Movement, we weren't simply curating artifacts. Shango showed us how to curate narratives. He curated with dignity, and most of all, he curated with truth. He understood something deeply, which was that Majesty wasn't just about the pomp and the crowns, it was about consciousness, and he walked with it. He organized with majesty, and he treated others with majesty at all times, is what I observed from Shango, Baku. And when we trotted to Ethiopia, I saw something within Shango that I had not seen before. And I saw like a different type of light, like a vibrant light, and a really bright light as well. So it's one thing to know someone like when you're working and you're at meetings and things like that, but it's another thing to know them when you're walking on sacred soil with them. And I guess with Shango, there was never a rush. There was never any restlessness, but there was always like purposefulness with Shango. And for me, he was like a drumbeat, like a heartbeat in humanity. He aligned us. He called spirits to attention, and that was Shango to me, like a drumbeat in a human form, if you like. And there were small things, and there were big things, and there was massive things that I experienced whilst around Shango. In Shashamani, some of the small things was that I watched how he moved with respect and humility, and always with like a deep ancestral awareness. Just things like the way he greeted the young and the old as we walked, the way he paused before he spoke, and also the way he observed before forming any opinions. And the big things were that with Shango, there was always cultural clarity. Consciousness was never compromised at all, and narratives were always remaining dignified and unwavering, with a protection of truth. And the massive things, I became aware of Shango's commitment to liberation, and his understanding that majesty requires levels of discipline. And he taught me how to be rooted in principle and not ego. He was gentle, and that's something that struck me a lot, like his gentleness. He had a way about him where he could listen deeply, he could offer perspectives, he would allow me to make my own decisions. He wouldn't impose anything, but he would encourage me, and he would smile or nod. And sometimes if I said things that maybe he found strange, he would always have that cheeky laugh and say things like, you'll find your way. Don't worry, you'll find your way. So he was like a steady flame, he carried fire. He was like a flame in times when the wind would try to blow out the truth. His flame would be stronger, and he wouldn't flicker. He endured, and he reminded me of things, not through lecture, but just through being present a lot of the time, just through being present. And I think his legacy is, it's going to be around being grounded and being conscious and being unshakable. For me, in my heart, like the drumbeat continues. Even now, like when I look at videos and images, I see a certain light in his eyes, his smile, his nod, his cheeky laugh. And once you've walked beside a steady flame like Rashangu Baku, you learn how to shield your own light from the wind. So I give thanks again for being able to say my tribute to Rashangu Baku and to be present amongst everybody here who knows and loves Rashangu Baku. Give thanks.
Give thanks, sister. Give thanks. That was beautiful, and what I'm bringing forward from that is this phrase, the curator of consciousness. Yes, I love that. And the living drumbeat. Yes, yes, I. And so I don't know if we have Raskasate in online now. I'm not I couldn't see the one online. So if not, then we just if Raskasate comes through, then we turn over to Raskasate. But in the meantime, we've had well, every human is a human, and every human is multifaceted, and we've had reflections and reasonings on Shango, which bring out just that multifaceted nature of our elder and our ancestors. So we want to turn over now to questions and answers or reasonings. I think maybe if we can just keep it around two elements, that would be good. Questions or comments coming off from what our speakers have been reasoning on, or one's reflections and remembrances of Rashango that ones want to add to the fire that we've been building. So yeah, I'm opening it up. And ones can just put their hand up. Maybe that would be the best way to do it. And ones can come forward, and I'll be looking. And if any of the presenters want to come forward again, they can come forward again, no problem. I'm trying to get my screen so I can see ones putting up their hands. Good, thanks. In the meantime, whilst ones are just collecting their thoughts, Rasjulani, Thunder 7, man, not putting the eye on the spot.
Well, Robert, give thanks. It's really fulsome picture of a legacy. And I like everything that has been contributed as charges to us, from Sekou telling us about those footprints of his to learning how to guide and guard your light and candle, and the voice of the drum, and yes, thunder. I think that that certainly is something that is important to move forward. And one of the things that I noticed here is that Ras Miguel, Ras Sekou, Rashango Baku are really a unique set of Rastafari international operatives. These brethren. Ras Miguel, as you've heard, was sworn in Trinidad, has worked across the Caribbean, has traveled into Africa, Europe, and America, and represents just Rastafari. He's not a Jamaican lawyer. He is just Ras Miguel, who happens to come from Jamaica. And this is what I noticed, because I have experienced journeying with Ras Shango in Ethiopia and in Jamaica. And everything which has been said were things that I could observe, that he really moved with urgency around moving away from that micro-nationalism that often destroys us, who comes from where or what. And I think that these brethren show us a strategy that we don't enough use now, which is to ensure that we are moving together as a community across the region. So just the network that is in production and visioning strategies already gives a range and a reach that is very much important even in this time. The idea of a regular newspaper as well is something that you know Rastafari speaks fill that void for, and there is still need for that kind of Rastafari commentary. So yeah, this for me it's a very important tribute that has just been laid here, and I look forward to further comments and conversations.
Yes, sir. Give thanks, Restylani. I see Brother Dave Dunkley. Is the eye there? Can the eye maybe ask that question to Ras Miguel?
Yeah, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, good to hear from you.
Because I've got like a trailer load of kids running around.
Oh, okay, all right.
That's Jelani, well known.
Yeah.
But yeah, I wanted to ask Raslan if he can give any more about that meeting with Maurice Bishop. Like, tell us what was Maurice's response to the critique that he was embracing communism or Marxism.
Yes, we can. What happened? When I was a student in Barbados, Ras Kabinda was on trial for a murder in Dominica. And we had formed an organization, the Union of Democratic Students, so as to raise support for Ras Kabinda and also to raise funds for his legal representation. And we had his brother, Vivian Trotter, to come over to Barbados to enlighten us on the case and to collect the funds that we sent over. At that time, Bishop was one of his lawyers. So that was how we met Maurice Bishop when he was defending, he was one of the lawyers defending Ras Kabinda. So when we went to Grenada, we went now to keep a Rastafari conference in Grenada. And when we tried to see him and we were at his gate waiting, I remember one of the soldiers that was guarding the gate and said we couldn't go any further. Ras Shango take on that soldier. And Ras Shango can be rough when I'm ready, you know. So he take on the soldier and him say, look here, little boy. You know, this is big man, we are all revolutionaries here. And you come to treat us like, you know, I could just easily take away that gun from you and send you on the way. And while up the little soldier, you know, while him up, can say to the soldier, the gun is even bigger than you. So please don't melt my spirit, don't get my spirit angry. And you know, the youth really look like he was shaking up, because Rasta go shake him up. So I see that side of Shango. When we went up to Bower Hill to meet Prince Emmanuel, and Prince Emmanuel said to us, well, all right, you all come to see me. Well, you have to go spend about 3 days up here so that you can see my accommodation, you can get an idea of what we have on the hill here, and so on. I didn't have 3 days to spare. But then when Shango said to me, Miguel, you must understand, these elders feel we have come to steal their thunder. They feel that we have come to usurp them. So what we'll do, we will stay 3 days, we'll be humble, and we'll make them realize that we're not here to steal their thunder. The work that they have done is well done, and we are here to carry on their work. Those are some beautiful comments to me, very soothing, cool it down, and so on. So that was how we spent the 3 days with Prince Emmanuel, 3 glorious days, and so on. So I've seen different side of Shango. The conference now, Maurice Bishop gave blessings to the conference and said, yes, it can go ahead. And he put us on to a brother named, a soldier named Ouso. Ouso was his name. And he said we should liaison with Ouso because he was going to leave the country the next day to go to Hungary. So we should liaison with Ouso, who would assist us in keeping the Rastafari conference. Well, my brother, that didn't work out that way. Ouso was a devil in disguise. Well, I wouldn't say in disguise, but a devil. And Ouso did everything to sabotage that Rastafari conference. Shortly after I left Grenada and left Cabinda in charge, when we all left, we went back to different places with our intention to go back to Grenada and finalize the conference. So we left Brother Cabinda to coordinate with Ras Nang Nang. Shortly after, Cabinda was arrested. We had to struggle to get him out of jail. We had to use a brother named Miles Fitzpatrick, a lawyer from Guyana who was in Grenada at the time, because Miles advised me not to come back because if I come back, I too would be arrested. And Shango and Seiko was not to come back because they would be arrested also. So the whole thing turned upside down, my brother. You know, and that time we warned Bishop that what we were hearing on the road, propagated by Core, was to set up enemies against him. But he laughed, you know. When people like Nang Nang, who was one of his loyal soldiers, was pushed out of his inner circle, we knew he was in danger. So we weren't surprised of the events which followed thereafter.
Give thanks, Ras Miguel. Yes, sir. Waiting for other ones to come forward, but in the meantime, Ras Sean, you know what I'm struck at just listening to this is these many lives of Ras Shango, and you know, all our elders and ancients have many lives, right? That you know, when I'm thinking about when I saw Ras Shango on TV in The Devil's Advocate, I had absolutely no idea about just that recent history which Ras Miguel has just been you know, given us, right? So there are many lives of our elders, you know. And I wonder if I could maybe just block forward a little bit on that impact of Ras Shango, seeing him on TV, you know, in the eyes context and the eyes trod. I think that's quite important because it was a big thing in the UK, right?
Yeah, give thanks, and yeah, give thanks to everyone's contribution and reflections. Really beautiful, powerful. Yeah, Devil's Advocate. I mean, Devil's Advocate and Darkest Hour was a big thing back in whenever it was, the 90s, early 90s. And you know, Darkest Hour was a very powerful presenter, and it was like, wow, okay, next week is going to be about Rastafari, you know. And this was the early times. I started to trod Rastafari in the late 80s, 1990. Do you know what I mean? So it was early in my time as well, coming into the Liberty. And so yeah, I watched it with real interest. And you know, I knew I wouldn't have wanted to be in that chair. Do you know what I mean? In front of Darkest Howe, who everyone knows Darkest Howe. He's do you know what I mean? But Rashango defended it. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't easy, and it's not always easy as ones and ones know to defend the liberty in the face of certain accusations or whatever's, you know, but it's not even our but you know, Rashango was just like, no, this is how it is, this is how it is, this is how it is. And it was just beautiful to see that on mainstream TV, Channel 4. But it didn't get defensive. I've seen the opposite on TV where it's similar kind of format. I can't remember if it came before or after Devil's Advocate, but I remember seeing this brethren surrounded by these people and they're kind of interrogating. And it was set up to be adversarial. And the brethren did his best, but it also became slightly defensive, and you saw that kind of thing. And Ras Shango didn't do that. Do you know what I mean? He was just calm throughout the whole period, and it's just like, this is a man of real dignity, real inner strength and confidence and wisdom, and everything that we've heard mentioned. And Sister Stella really spoke beautifully about his personality, and when he speaks you listen, and these kind of things. And yeah, I just remember that, and I videotaped it, and I used to watch it over and over again, because I was still in the formation of learning myself about what this liberty was that I started on the trod. And I learned a lot from Ras Shango just from that one episode, even though how it was set up, it was Darkest House program, and he was going to have the last say no matter which way the tide was turning. Do you know what I mean? Because that's just how the format of the program was. But the light of Ras Shango really shone brightly there. It wasn't always easy watching, I have to be honest. And, it's quite challenging. I know Benjamin Zephaniah, who I worked with, he was originally also asked to do that even before Ras Shango was, and for whatever reasons, Benjamin turned it down and said he didn't want to do that, didn't want to be in that kind of format, and I reasoned with him after that was aired, and he was like, yeah, no, that was a hard one, that was a difficult one, but he hailed up Ras Shango for being there and stepping up and doing what he didn't want to step up to do himself, so full respect to Ras Shango in that light, because that wasn't an easy one, but I think it really made an impact on many ones and ones to see that, because we know in this trod, we have faced that hostility, the same hostility that Darkest House presented from our own parents, from our teachers, people in the community. We faced that hostility. To see that live, see that on TV, broadcast live was powerful. So we related to Ras Shango in that moment. Do you know what I mean? And we've all been there in different situations. We've all been there. So yeah, can't underestimate that really. And give thanks to Dominic for putting that link in the chat. I could never actually find that episode for some reason. I'm a researcher, and no matter how I tried to find that episode, I couldn't find it. So I don't know why, but yeah, give thanks for that link.
Well, Sean, Ras Dominic is our factoid junior. Factoid junior to Bro Jakes. Bro Jakes is the factoid senior, and Ras Dominic is the factoid junior.
To the chair.
Yes, sir. Ras SOSACRU.
Yes. I want to peek on the devil's advocate, and the whole idea that Ras Shango Baku was the person who ended up being the challenge for the hackers. I grew up in East Bear River, Trinidad, and I knew the hackers. I knew the hackers' mother, who was very fond of I. I knew the hackers' father, who was my principal, as well. I knew the hackers' brother. I took one of the hackers' brothers, his third brother, third Grenada, which made the hackers very pissed off because he and Maurice had some situations being part of that Trotsky movement under Sierra James in Britain in the late to mid 60s. So Darkus and Shango elder brother, were at QRC together, while Shango was at St. Mary's. So they knew one another, right? Because they all went to St. Mary's, but Shango brother went to QRC to do upper six, right? So Shango and Darkus knew one another from teenage years, because Shango brother and Darkus were brethren from in fifth form, sixth form. at QRC. So one of the things that happened is Darkers was very much like, I'm going to challenge Shango, because why I say that you're supposed to be a brilliant man? Why are you holding on to Rastafari, this dead man? Who you think a dead man is alive? You think dead man is still emperor of Ethiopia? Why is he why are you holding on to a man who was feeding lions and so on, and instead of poor people? So he thought Shango, he could have really clobbered Shango, especially when he brought on Professor Udendorf was in the audience. So Shango was shown how astute he could have been as an intellectual person, and a person who himself didn't back down, because he took the power of the Orishas with him, and the power of Haile Selassie, the High Majesties, Empress Menen, and all the ancestors. Shango had that strength with him, and he didn't back down from Darkers. And Darkers was very surprised, very much astonished, because he was like, why a brilliant mind like you is defending Rastafari? What's wrong with you? And that is where he was really surprised. But I guess he knew that from after that, he knew Shango was not a person to reckon with too easily. Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks for SOSACRU. Yeah. Yes, Sister Jackie. Is that Sister Jackie? Yes,
Hi,
please.
everyone. Give thanks. I'm Shango's daughter, Jackie.
Yes,
I'm so glad.
greetings.
So sorry. Thank you. The last speaker, I'm so sorry. I didn't see the name again.
SOSACRU. SOSACRU.
Oh, SOSACRU, give thanks. That was amazing, because I was wanting to speak before to bring all of that up, and you just said it perfectly. So it's quite deep, and it was really harder for Shango being, so connected with Darks as well, for him to have to stand up like that. And there was a professor in the audience, wasn't there? And Darkus asked him about divinity, because he was very close to His Majesty. And his answer was, I am not an expert on divinity. And it was really good, because he was like, defending Shango. And I don't think Darkus expected that either. So it was a lot, it was really quite deep, the whole thing. But I also want to say thank you. And it's great to see other side, which of course I knew about. I've been to Bingies with Shango, not for many years, but I worked with him from 18. And which I was quite surprised by, to be honest, because Shango was very, very strict as a father. So, there was that element of that father and that fear, you can't really be yourself. And, 18 is that very delicate age. So, but the work that he was doing, I just had to be involved. So that first tour I went on when I was 18 with a couple of my sisters, we went to the Midlands, and he had a few plays, and we were improvising with young people. And I just thought, this is what I never had at school. And this is amazing. And I can see the transformative aspect of these workshops. So I worked with them literally every day and night for 7 years and I worked beyond that with him. But after that 7 years, I got this job at the age of 25 with no formal qualifications as the education director of the Tricycle Theatre, which is the top fringe theatre in London, in the UK. And there's no way I would have got that without all that training from Shango. He was training me to be able, there was people coming from Scotland, England, Wales to get that job. They had qualifications coming out of everywhere, but I got that job. But still, Shango found work for me, even though I was full-time education director. He gave me roles. But the first 7 years, honestly, we worked tirelessly in schools. And the only break we got in between every day was the weekend and half terms. And we would go away. I won't say retreat, because we never retreat, we advance. But we would go and we would find they had a big book called English Country Cottages. We'd find somewhere nice with a lake and and go chill. So we needed that downtime as well. But then it was working to prepare for the next term. So, and he was so thorough. Somebody said something about some deep research, might be you, Rasamani. But one of the greatest projects I ever did with him, all of them were amazing. We won a couple of awards for it as well. But it was to do with the Congo, Belgium Congo. And he went deep, Leopold's army, and he found somehow this white Belgian bank clerk called Emile Torde. We told the whole story. Very briefly, Emile Torde was curious about the savages and the cannibals and what was, that he'd heard that they were going in to tame and to do this, but they were taking the rubber from the trees. And so he went to do he went under the administration of Leopold's army. Then he saw what was going on, this little bank clerk, and he ended up going away, disconnecting from them, and then going back himself and became an anthropologist. And he spoke 9 different African dialects on the basin alone of the Congo. Then he went into the Congo to deep, with no arms, and he found a tribe called the Shango tribe. And this tribe was way advanced. This is like 1900 to 1909, around that time, way advanced in terms of their civilization and their, the way that they ran their government. He said it was probably like a modern day Bishop's Avenue at both sides of the road, 4 houses, 4 palm trees, 4 houses, and every single spoon was intricately carved. And it was just this beautiful place. And this Emile Torde had to convince this Bashongo tribe, he got a seat with the kings, to part with their main 3 Bashongo heads. They had an oral history from the beginning of time. He said, listen, I'm telling you the truth, that Leopold's coming in and he is going to wreck the place, mash up the place, and then no one will know about your history. These things, artifacts, will end up in a attic somewhere, but they're going to destroy you, your culture, everything. And he wanted to preserve. He even wrote, to governments to please leave this place, this magical place. And of course, they did eventually come in, but not before they trusted him. He said, I'm going to take your artifacts and your history. I'm going to write about it. I'm going to take it to he called it the Big House, which was the British Museum. And we did a whole project at the Museum of Mankind around these 3 heads. Yeah, with school children. It was so powerful. We took it to Cape Coast Castle and did it there with it was so powerful. The thing was, what I wanted to say was the research. I ended up near Warren Street, down in the basement, reading handwritten testimonies from Leopold's army, like they're handwritten. And it was in days of typewriter, I had to type up and type Shango scripts. And it was painful going through those histories and realizing these things. But yeah, he went in, and what I found out was through the handwritten testimonies, we know about the basketful of hands and feet that had to be collected from the goings out and comings back of the slaves and the whole rubber quota. And then one soldier said, I was reading one day, said, basically, we've been told that we are, can't even think of the word, but like we're being like pussies. We're not killing men. We're killing the women and children. These are the hands of women and children. So then they were ordered, because it was every bullet for every hand or every foot, they were ordered to chop off the genitals of, the slaves if they didn't have the quota. So all this, and I'm like, this is all Shango going deep. He found these stories, and he would research, really go thorough. And he did that with all Black achievers. When we were going into the schools, the teachers were looking at each other going, this can't be right. Do you know about this? They had no idea about any of the achievers, from the light bulb to the open heart surgery to the separating plasma from the blood, the gas mask. They had no idea. And he was a real pioneer. But yeah, you're right, in terms of his thoroughness and his work ethic was just unbelievable, really unbelievable. So yeah, I give thanks that I had that time to, really appreciate him, love him in in life, and have that.
Definitely, sis. Was that part of the cultural exchange
That's right,
for
yeah.
theatre and education, right?
Yeah, I think it was
Right?
yeah, 1990. It was Annie and
Yeah.
myself that went down to, they used to have law centres that would help you set up your charity. And Annie and I went down and signed the papers and set up the memorandum and the this and that. And yeah, SETI was amazing, really amazing. So yeah, thank you everyone. Yeah, for sharing your hearts and experiences with Shango.
And I think them papers for the SETI papers, they're deposited right in, I can't remember what repository it is, but I
Yeah,
think
there is some archive, like bits and pieces, and I must say, we'll go into. I was talking to Rasamani about this. Now we'll go and see what I have in the attic because at one point, obviously when SETI was folding, yeah, I'm a bit like Shango. Didn't want anything just to be just thrown, like even the feedback because we always did feedback from kids' workshop, a feedback form after every single workshop to find out what they liked, what they didn't, what could be better, da da da. So yeah, and videotapes of workshops. So yeah, but they're Rasamani will let you know where they are, what is there, but I will check the attic and see what's there. Thank you.
Good thanks. Good thanks.
If I may add, Mr. Moderator.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Just to add because I've heard his daughter speak about details and technicalities, and I've heard our speakers mention you could almost call Shango a lawyer, you know. I remember when I first went to Trinidad to do a case, and the brothers there, Shango had taken statements from all the brothers, all the witnesses, with such brilliant details. So when I went, the brief was almost ready for me, you know, and right throughout, he had that knack of when he wrote not the statements, because we had quite a number of cases all over the Caribbean. People like Shango, Seiko, Kimane, when they wrote statements, you'd all think they are lawyers. But I tell you, with Shango, you didn't miss much when he wrote and send you the statements of the incident, of what happened, and so on. He had that brilliant mind and that mindset to anticipate the questions that I would have asked. Yes.
To the chair. To the chair.
Yes, sir.
I want to extend to what Brother Miguel said by saying Shango's father was an attorney, was a barrister, trained in the UK. Shango was the only son who did not get African name. He was a junior to the father. So all the sons, because his father studied in England during the time of people like Kwame Nkrumah, Sajifo, Sierra James, George Padmore, and so on. So he was present among the students, African and Caribbean students, who were present when they were having the fifth Pan-African Conference and so on. So during that time, apparently when Shango was born, just a couple of days, and Shango, his father was away studying as a student, studying law. So Shango he was the only one who was born who did not have a cultural African name, and he became junior to the father. So the whole consequence of taking on having that legal mindset, but he got at being in that home. Give thanks.
Give thanks, Rasamani. I think we're getting a fuller and fuller understanding of Ras Shango's life and many attributions. And I'm wondering, Rasamani, and Sister Stella, I mean, Rasamani, can I just block us sound on the NNC, the National Nyabingi Council, and how that came about in the UK and Ras Shango's role in it. That might be important to put on the record. And then Sister Stella, could I do similar with the RM UK? Just so one's got a fuller understanding. Give thanks.
Yeah, give thanks, my Lord. Okay, so in terms of recording that history, I was happily doing theatre, and I was having good success. We had a company called Double Edge, and we cut both ways. And then the drum beat started to kind of call in inside my head and inside my heart. And more and more, I'm thinking, hold on, I'm supposed to be going to Hollywood. I'm ready. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do all this thing. TV's gonna come, but His Majesty's is in my head. So I had to leave that, not leave it, but step away, and I found myself with the brethren at RUZ, Rastafari Universal Zion, and that was the place of where Jabones was, and Bonga Keat, and Ras Jr., Ras Ivan, and other ones. And they really were quite unique in terms of they had a principle of intellectual analysis within the Rastafari liberty, but they also reached deep into the Ayabingi Isis and had those two arms together, which made them a potent force. So worked with the brethrens them, and we went through certain evolutions. But at that time, federation was federation, 12 tribes was 12 tribes, but then you had to go Nyabingi house. And I'm thinking, well, what's going on here? Everybody has their house. So what happened to the Nyabingi? And so there was a little war, fireman, to tell you the truth. A push me and pull in, and we went through various evolutions, Einity group, trying to bring people together and bring an Einity together. But as a young lion working amongst them elder ones, it puzzled me because everybody had their house. Everybody had their house, but nobody wanted the Bingi house. So that war was fought, and the NNC Nyabingi National Council was brought into play. And Rashango, it's interesting that the ones talk about the devil's advocate, because at that time, I will give another angle on that. At that time, if you look at the people in the audience, there are many ones within this liberty, strong ones within the liberty. And I remember that they had asked RUZ, would they like to be part of that? And RUZ, being the firehouse that they was, said, bona fire upon that. They're not dealing with nobody who calls themselves the devil's advocate. Bon that, and we ain't even taking part in it. In fact, they bona fide from everybody who took part in it. You know what I mean? And that was how it was. So, and after that article, Shango took a lot of flack for that, right? Both left and right. But that was Shango. He didn't fear, right? Controversy. He was right there at the cutting edge, right? And he said, you know what I mean? People fear, angels fear, where kind of certain men fear to tread. I forget the exact saying, but Shango would go in there. But then people would then question him. But the NNC and the Nyabingi saw in Shango a man of eloquence and a man of articulate elegance, and also a fireman and a little terror, right? So he was a natural member of that initial. But the thing about the NNC that I would like to say to the them is that from little acorns the great oaks grow. And the Nyabingi National Council, NNC, you will go to South Africa and find NNC, Angola and find NNC, Zambia, NNC. So all of those Southern African countries have NNC. They even have something called SANC, Southern African Nyabingi Council. You will go to Ethiopia and you will find NNC. So that was something that we wrote a document, a Bill of Rights, a constitution, and that constitution was passed out to various ones on ones. And obviously, they would use that, they would learn from that, and they would make it their own. And it gave people that structure. Because for a long time, as I was growing, we heard that, well, we have all of these houses, but the Nyabingi is just a churchical order. But the churchical order couldn't take on its heretical constitutional administrative rights. But the churchical order of the Nyabingi was a theocratic order, and that meant church and state, right? So we entered into articulating the politics and the culture of Rasta, and I think that that movement has not looked back, neither in England or even in especially in Africa, where I think that legacy, if there's anything that we can be proud of, right, and that we can be proud of Shango and the early members of the NNC4, is when I stood on the hillside at Malawi, looking over the Nyabingi house and seeing young children skip around the altar of His Majesty, and they saw themselves as members of Malawi NNC, Nyabingi National Council, proper administrative assistance for the furtherance of this magnificent liberty. So Shango was an elemental force in the early days of the NNC, and the arms of the NNC have gone far and wide, and even now are still having greater effect. So his legacy is sublime, and may his name never be forgotten in the halls of our ancestors. Haile Selassie I, My Majesty.
Rastafari, give thanks. Yes, Sister Stella, can you block a sound on the RMUK?
Yeah, I think similarly I was doing some studies, and we had started to look at the exhibition for Ethiopia. And during my studies, I went to Jamaica to do some research. And the research was it's just to do with the things that I was studying at the time. But on my return, I was told by Shango that they had seconded me to do some work with Jablu on formulating and organizing the reparations march. And during that time, Shango and Jablu would meet, and I would be the person that would be taking the notes and doing all the administrative stuff. And Shango was also connecting us to all of the embassies to make them aware, and he became the person that was really like an international communications person. And so he would do a lot of the writing and preparing of the declarations to hand into Parliament. And so he was a really integral part of what we were doing. And then in 2013, we formulated ourselves into the Rastafari Movement UK. And again, Shango was always there guiding and steering in terms of how we should approach the thing and who we should be contacting. And then that sort of transpired into the march, and we marched on Parliament on the 1st of August 2014. And it made history. It made our story. We rewrote our story. And I just remember that as we left Brixton, we started to march towards Parliament. As we came like closer, and we went underneath Waterloo Bridge, I think it was, and you could hear the echoing of the chanting and the drumming. And as you came underneath that bridge and approached Westminster Bridge, there were tourists and they were all facing Big Ben, and they were taking pictures of Big Ben. And as we came through and you heard the drumming, the bingy drumming and the chanting, it's like the whole of the tourism turned round, like did a 360, and to see us coming over the bridge and started taking pictures of the march, and even after that, Shango was the one that wrote about it. He's the one that wrote and published and expressed what happened. And so I think throughout the whole of that period and afterwards, we would meet, and he would help us with strategy. He would be the one that would look at all the different elements of what Rastafari movement could be doing in the future. And then and that even transpired to us producing the little booklet that I think we showed at the beginning, which was the Rastafari Ways to Wellbeing and Mental Health. And Shango, that little booklet actually took us 2 years to produce. 2 years. Like it was a series of ongoing conversations and communicating with Rastafari globally. And Shango again was the person that scrutinized the script, scrutinized and made sure that the words in the booklet were the way they should be. It represented what it should represent, and then that little booklet became like a booklet that became nationally in the UK in the health system, in terms of people knowing the values and the the tenets of Rastafari and our well-being. And so he showed us the way. He was kind of like a root of a lot of things that took place within Rastafari movement UK. And even to the point where, at the moment, we're still doing things in the community. We're still, doing well-being within the Rastafari community. And Shango again would constantly check in on me and find out how's it going. Are you still doing this work? He would constantly make sure that we were still doing the work. And so yeah, he had a major influence. And I think I remember the day when he suggested that we go down to the Jamaica High Commission. And so off we went. It was myself and Jablu, Sister Sheba, Sister Oleta. And, we met the High Commissioner, and, we spoke about reparation, and, letters were sent forward, and we even spoke about what's happening with Jamaican citizens in Ethiopia. And as a result of that, letters went to Ethiopia, and, things changed, so yeah, he was a force. Yeah.
Give thanks, Sister Stella. So we're heading towards sealing up, but I'm gonna hand over to Rasjalani in a minute. But I'm just taking one quote that was selected from His Majesty on this one, social well-being, which just struck me as especially pertinent for the reasoning we just had. So this is His Majesty. This is the quote taken from this number 6, social well-being. Any who may wish to profit himself alone from the knowledge given to him rather than to serve others, for the knowledge he has gained from learning, is betraying knowledge and rendering it worthless. And we get the strong sense that Ras Shango's life is the opposite of that. It's a demonstration, of not betraying knowledge, of knowledge as power. Yes, sir. We give thanks. Rasjalani, does the I want to seal us up?
Yeah, give thanks, Ras Robbie, and to all of our panelists for what I full joy. I trust that our audience in total appreciate of what has been shared. You know, the Black History Month context, I think that we've been able to do this in so close to his Earth Strong, kind of tells you who he is in Rastafari and the UK story particularly. I am inspired by that example as solid foundations that I can continue to ensure that they endure. I want to tell Ras Amani that we have to talk about that play, getting to the point where we are materializing that vision, drawing on I contribution and staging it in different locations as a way of showing I different strategies. I mean, this is what I think individuals like Shango Baku, just like Mortimer Plano and others who had these other aspects to them, you know, creative and political and theological and activist, all of them happily coexisting in a very insightful way. I want to invite two persons to help me to close. Mama Willeti, I have a theory that the Trinidadian Rastafari is a particularly important operative because they don't suffer from micronationalism in the way that, you know, Jamaicans and other people might. You know, they tend to be there in spite of all that is happening and charting that path that Rashawn reminded us, you know, that truth and right, that speaking truth to power consistently on the unification ideal. So I want to ask Mama Willeti, a countryman or a daughter from Trinidad, just to provide some sealing words. And I would also like to invite Bongo Wisely to close us out on that. St. Lucian brethren, I'm not sure if he himself had a connection with Shango Baku, but just to ensure that, you know, we're picking on that framework from which he so well represented Rastafari in that international activist role, concerted around unity, which is our singular objective. So Mama Willeti, if you can, and then Shango, Bongo Wisely as our final closeout, and give thanks for you, our attentive audience. This will be available to you online. We'll let you know when it is ready. Mama Willeti?
If I may, Rastralani,
yes.
Just asking the audience that they could share their email addresses in the chat so that we can be in touch for those who don't have direct contact with SOSACRU. I also think Sister Willeti may not be able to speak at this time, so if you want to move over to Bongo Wisely.
All right. So we go straight to Bongo Wisely. If you're able to Bongo Wisely, we would appreciate love your closing grace. Give thanks.
Yes, I give thanks, Rastafari. Yeah, man, as we always say, you know, Grand Rising family. I must say I'm very much impressed, you know, by the tributes given to Ras Shango Baku, who I had the pleasure of meeting and working with, you know, even during the early days of the Caribbean Rastafari organization. Also, prior to that, between myself, I was one of the agents in Ayanola for the distribution of Rastafari Speaks, you know. Traveled to Trinidad 1-2 times, met with Seiko, Montu, and even Shango Baku and many others. Even my brethren Super, who is there at this Iowa also. So yeah, man, it was really an honor to have met with Ras Shango Baku, you know. And hearing from what the presenters give today, it really filled my heart, with love and joy, to hear of the works of the brethren. Some of them I was not privy to, but so I give thanks for the opportunity. So as we say, glory to word, glory to sound, glory be to the powers of the living I, Kedemawi, Haile Selassie, and Empress Menen. Behold how good and how pleasant it is for brethren and sistren to dwell together in love and unity. It's like the precious ointment upon I head that went down I precepts, even I precepts that went down to the skirts of I garments. As the dew of Hermon, and as the dew that descended upon the island mountains of Zion. For there the living I, Heliai, Selassie, Rastafari, I mandate the blessings that I should live forever and ever. Heliai, Selassie, Rastafari.
Rastafari.
I will lift up I eyes unto the hills from whence cometh I help. And I help cometh from the Most High, Haile Selassie, who I rated Zion on the earth. Yea, I will not suffer and I fit to be moved. Him that keepeth I shall not slumber. Behold, him that keepeth Ethiopia shall neither slumber nor sleep. For the eyes I keeper, the eyes I shade upon I right hand. By the eye protection, the sun shall not smite I by day, nor the moon by night. I shall preserve I from all evil. I shall preserve I. I shall preserve I yarding out and and even forever and forever. Eli, Selassie, Rastafari.
Give thanks.
Your Majesty, once again we do give thanks for this moment where we could pay tribute to our beloved brethren. We do give thanks for all ones who are present. We do give thanks for the presenters and what was presented this hour. We do pray at this time as we come to a seal that the Ihola Irate would remain and abide with all of I and cause I to yard free from the hands of wicked Babylon. And may these words of I mouth and the meditations of I heart ever be humble and acceptable in thy sight, I strength and I redeemer, yea, who long live and reign forever and forever. Blessed be the Most High. Heli, Selassie, Rastafari. Give thanks and
Brother
praise.
Jelani,
Give
Brother
thanks.
Yes.
Jelani,
Yes, Ras Miguel.
yes, as I hear White a while ago, I don't think a tribute to Shango could close without mentioning the great names throughout the Caribbean. He was he was like the glue. When you at an era, at a time when many Rastafarians were being brutalized throughout the Caribbean. So we must mention people like Brother Frankai in Antigua, Brother Seku, also in St. Lucia, Brother Iral and some of the other brothers in Barbados, Brother Eli and other brothers in St. Kitts, and many others throughout the Caribbean as we had journeyed on that struggle to bring dignity and greatness to Rastafari. Give thanks.
Thank you very much, Ras Miguel. A few of those names I thought of as we were presenting. And indeed, we must call their names in this forum. So yeah, give thanks.
And we must remember Ras Aikel Tafari.
Yes, sir. And Sister Ijania's name hasn't been
yes.
One of those names as well, Yes. In fact, the real point is that there are some individuals who are known just as Rastafari, and their work transcends all of the community in ways that we all celebrate. and are really grateful for. Yeah, man. Shango is one of those sterling examples. Yeah, man, and we give thanks indeed. We need to continue this attention to our own Black history celebrants going forward, you know. So there's much work to be done, and we give thanks. We see the capacity that is here, that we need to continue working together. Yes, I give thanks.
Is the power of the Trinity. Build your mind on this direction. Serve the living God and live. Live in God. Live in God and live. Take your troubles to Selassie. Is the only King of Kings. He's a King of Kings. King of Kings is he. Must sing, all must sing, all must sing. I search and I search, script book of mine, in the Revelation. Look what I find. El Selassie is the chaplain. All the world should know. All should know. All should know.
Blessings and love, everyone. I am going to close the meeting. Give thanks.
Yes, I give